Did you know that a recent national survey found that about 71% of people would rather sit in silence than to make small talk? If that sounds familiar, I promise you, you are not alone. Most of us do feel awkward in those moments. However, I don't. So that's why I'm here to help you in this video and over the next 5 to 7 videos in this series. Funny enough, my wife will often always find me in like we're we'll be out in like a shopping mall or like a grocery store or anything like that, and when we'll be walking together, then she'll turn around, I'm having a full-blown conversation with somebody, then she'll just keep on shopping. 5 10 minutes later, we're still standing there talking, and it's just something I've gotten really good at over the years. So that's why we're here to make this video. I want to be able to help you all. Avoiding small talk could truly be costing you your valuable opportunities. So in this video, you'll learn why your brain resists small talk and the simple mindset shift that you can take and make these moments work for you. How many times have you ever walked into a room and you looked around trying to figure out who you want to talk to first, or you're trying to figure out who looks the most approachable? And as you're doing this, your hands start getting a little sweaty and you can't figure out who looks the most approachable. So you either end up in the corner somewhere or on the wall. This reaction is rooted in what a clinical psychologist, Ellen Hendriskin, I believe I may have said her name correctly, describes in her book, How to Be Yourself, as the fear of the reveal. See, the thing is, social anxiety, especially in the professional setting, often comes from the worry that others will discover that we're trying to either hide something, or maybe we feel a little bit of imposter syndrome and believing that you aren't necessarily good enough to be in that room. Maybe you felt that way before. So whether you're scared of either stumbling over your words or saying something stupid, which, I'll be honest, we all have done it plenty of times, and hey, like, we'll get past it. The more you focus on more so of these fears, the more anxious you become. So we want to get rid of that. To cope, what many people end up doing, relying on, are these like subtle avoidances strategies, or habits, right? Like checking their phone or even finding food or the drink section. And once you end up doing that, you feel better at the moment. But once you either look up from your phone or you finish your plate of food, you're exactly where you started. And in these professional environments, the avoidances could really have a lot of consequences to not only the present moment, but also possibly your future. And so when we think about as a student or young professionals or anything like that, when candidates lead these events early, sometimes, right, they're trying to be more comfortable, or they're trying to avoid that social anxiety. They're keeping to themselves. Recruiters can possibly interpret this as a lack of interest, or right, they don't care. So over these time, the anxiety could lead to missed opportunities, which could be for our growth and advancement. And that's really what we're trying to conquer today with getting better at small talk, and really over the next couple of videos that we have going on. One thing I want us to understand, as you probably have already heard, is that first impressions matter. But in this case, when it comes to small talk, the stakes are really low. And here's the thing: our brains are wired to be able to treat social rejection as a social risk. And I'm pretty sure maybe through anxiety or some of these previous small talks that you've had before, you may have felt this. And yet, these first impressions, they matter, yes, but they're actually really low stakes. And studies have shown that candidates who begin with neutral topics, whether it's the weather or maybe the commute, rather than just jumping straight into the topic of business, tend to have a better interaction and have a positive response with the recruiters. And the core issue that I want us to also realize here is not the lack of conversational skills, but it's really the mindset shift that we need to have to reframe these interactions as not just a performance review. So before, when researchers had encouraged participants to approach conversations with curiosity rather than really self-protection or self-promoting yourself, they noticed an immense drop when it comes to their anxiety. shifting their attention outward, more so focusing on the other person instead of worrying on their internal maybe flaws or things that they don't want to mess up or their fears, can make small talk not only tolerable but also enjoyable as well. And this perspective shift is the very first step into transforming those awkward exchanges that you may be having into genuine opportunities for connections. And honestly, y'all, we aren't there to impress anyone. We're truly there to just pay attention, be present, and discover something new about the person within the interaction. And with that being said, the next thing that I want to talk about is how to become more curious for these conversations. Some people try to cope with some of their social anxieties by overthinking the conversations in their head prior to the interaction. And let's be honest, we've all done that before, but we want to make sure that we eliminate that. But the thing is, this habit is going to keep you from focusing on yourself, right? And the thing is, some people try to cope with these social anxieties with overthinking their conversations. Plenty of times, 20, 15, 30 times in their head prior to the conversation. And this is where your hands start sweating, you get nervous, and maybe you end up stumbling over your words a couple of times. But what this habit also does is push your focus more so on yourself rather than the person that you're speaking to. And when you do this and you're trying to plan every single response, you miss the subtle cues in the body language that a person may have. And this allows you to have real time opportunities if you're able to catch that. And it allows you to have a more meaningful interaction as well. Scripting your conversation, overthinking in your head may feel safe at the moment, but it also is going to increase the anxiety, and it's going to make you feel or appear more distracted and more so less connected from the connection or person that you're trying to end up building with, right? And there's another study. There was some research done by, I want to say her name was Gillian Sandstorm, who ended up finding out that those who genuinely notice these details about the person that they're speaking to, and they really wanted to respond in the moment about the small details, made those interactions feel less awkward and also rehearsed beforehand. So when you pay attention in the present moment, it's going to allow you to actively respond and also feel a little bit more natural. And the other thing you can do here is you can ask open-ended questions or notice something about what they have on or maybe what their accessories or anything like that. And that can allow you to have a richer interaction and also help you feel a little bit more at ease. One thing that I always like to do, I like to comment on people's clothing and their accessories, and possibly really just those two main things, because it tells me a lot about themselves. Like, even for example, right now, if you were to see me in person, you're like, oh cool, that maybe is like a nice quarter sleeve. What does the VP stand for? Or if you look on the back of my shirt right now, it says Phenom, and so that can kind of spark a conversation. Maybe if I see you wearing some collegiate apparel, I may ask you either, are you a fan of that team, or did you go to that university, and maybe what are your ties to it? Maybe your brother or sister or family member went there, and that kind of starts to push us down a certain path, right? Now, when we think about small talk, we can really have this not be as awkward, and we can make it a little bit more strategic within our interactions. I'm pretty sure you've experienced this throughout our days. Most people will default to like safe topics like sports or work, but research is really going to suggest that among those subjects, according to a study within, like, I think it was like 2022, which is probably still relevant today for what we're talking about, most people ask, what do you do for work? Or like, what are you a fan of? And those questions, whenever you're having that, are like the most, or excuse me, they're the least light small talk opening questions for a conversation. However, we're still using those conversations daily. And I don't know about you, but I hate the question, what do you do for work? So what you can do, rather than asking someone, let's just say at a conference, what they do for work, reference the actual event itself and say something or ask something along the lines of, like, what brought you here to this session? Especially if they're workshops, what brought you to this particular session rather than the other three that are going on? This can actually lead to a better conversation and keep you on topic for the event that you're attending. And this can have a better effect, lasting impact, on effective networking, right? And effective networkers always, and they are frequently, myself included, they're using context-based opening questions or context-based questions, opening questions, whatever you want to say. And they're also asking follow-up questions that build upon the first question that they may have asked. And maybe this is also just because I've been podcasting for about 4 years or so. And this is something that I've had to get good at. Maybe so. Maybe this is why I'm really good at small talk, honestly. Because I don't go into my podcast with scripts. I just go in and ask questions and I just pay attention. Anyway, so let's just say if someone mentions growing up in Chicago, a more meaningful question might be something along the lines of, what do you miss about living there? Or what was your favorite moments that you experienced while you lived in Chicago? This approach may encourage storytelling, which, spoiler alert, I also have a masterclass about storytelling. And this is going to make the conversation feel a lot more natural. Open-ended questions and really curiosity-driven questions help ease the awkwardness in these conversations, the small talk, grocery store, conferences, even, while we're in a new class and we're trying to meet each other, right? It really dwindles down, it not dwindles down, but it really deteriorates. It makes sure is that we break down the barriers of the awkwardness that we may end up having. So the next time that you're tempted to really stick to those like safe generic questions, I want you to remember that small intentional questions can truly and completely change the connection between you and the person that you may be speaking to. And as we end up wrapping up the video today, this is what I want you to remember. All right. I want you to remember that building a real connection with small talk doesn't require you to change your personality. It's really just a matter of how you change your mindset, right? Your mindset going into these conversations. And this is what I want you to do. I want you to try asking one observational question when you meet someone new. And I want you to focus on, again, not impressing them, but more so learning just a little bit more about who they are. And this is going to open up the connection between you all. And if you enjoyed this video, you're going to love the second video of this series, what to say when you have no clue what to say. Make sure you subscribe and turn on the notifications so you can keep the conversation flowing. I can't wait to see y'all in the next episode.